Hi, my name is Caleb Confusione, and I'm a freshman studying biology at Florida State University, and I just want to say, welcome to FSU. Here at Florida State University, I'm involved in the Undergraduate Research Opportunities Program, otherwise known as UROP, where I study the rise and fall of cyanobacterial mats. So right behind me is the King Life Sciences building. This is where I go bi-weekly or so to meet with my research mentor to discuss our progress on the project and discuss things that we need to do to keep moving forward. So what is a cyanobacterial mat? So essentially, cyanobacterial mats are bacterial growths that occur on the bottom of the seafloor. So these cyanobacterial mats have increased from 0.1% up to 22% in the past 40 years. So you can imagine the great effect that they've had on the biodiversity of the coral reefs that they surround. So the cyanobacterial mats release toxins, which in lesser concentrations basically didn't affect the coral reefs. But now that they're up to 22%, it's causing reef disease and fish mortality to the nearby fish species. So it's important that we figure out the relationship between the cyanobacterial mats and the coral reefs so that we can protect our coral reefs, because they, number one, protect our shorelines, number two, they increase biodiversity in the underwater ecosystem. So what I'm actually doing specifically to help this project is I'm putting all of these photos that were taken during a dive off the coast of Bonaire on the same scale so that we can monitor their growth over time. So in order to scale these photos, I'm using the QGIS georeferencing system. If you come back with me to my dorm in Wildwood Hall, I'll show you exactly just how that's done. And now we're back inside the wonderful dorm in Wildwood Hall where all the homework gets done, and I'm going to give y'all a little look as to what goes on the computer. So just to give you a visual of what the cyanobacterial mats actually look like, here is the photo set that I'm currently working with from the dive off of Bonaire. So we've got several different shapes and sizes of mats here, all of them which need to be scaled so that we can see just how quickly they're growing. Some of the most concentrated ones are probably towards the bottom here. These are pretty neat, so I'll blow this one up for you. And you can really see just how much bigger it is than the rest of them. Whatever holes that there are in here, most of them are pretty small, so some of these things can get pretty large, and it really can be a threat to the biodiversity of the coral reefs that we're studying. Okay, so this is kind of what it's going to look like when I go into my QGIS georeferencing system and I'm going to scale one of the photos of the cyanobacterial mat. So I'm just going to give a brief little rundown of the first kind of preliminary steps to scaling the photo, just so you guys can get an idea of what's going on. So every single photo that was taken in the dive has a ruler. So what I'm going to do first is zoom into this ruler. And what I'm trying to do, the aim of the game in this first step, is to measure accurately in between these 2 millimeter marks, so that way I can get an idea of how big 1 millimeter is in pixels for this photo. So I'm going to go ahead and go back here so I can kind of drag. And what I'm trying to do is find the darkest two squares that correlate with one another between these 2 millimeter marks. So I would most likely pick this one right here and then correlate it with this one down here. Now, as you can see down towards the bottom, it tells you the coordinate, the numbers down here, your X and your Y. So what I would do after obtaining that information is I would take those numbers, I would input them into our Excel spreadsheet as X1, Y1 for, say, this square, and then I go up here and this would be X2, Y2. And so these values would act as my scale for the rest of the photo. So now that you've seen what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and how I'm doing it, I just want to say thank you for considering me for this scholarship. I really want to continue to study things like this in my career here at Florida State, and a scholarship like this would really help me do so. I'd appreciate the money and I'd appreciate the help financially. It would mean so much to me to continue studying here at Florida State. I appreciate your time, and thank you again, and go Noles.